Hello, everyone, and welcome to Tome of Knowledge, where we read our tome and give you knowledge. I'm joined with Virtual Spectre, and Moobs is still on his luxurious vacation overseas, having lots of fun.
You can
But
wish him a happy birthday, though, even though he's not here.
yeah,
Big man, what is he now?
I don't know.
39?
I don't
He's
know.
39. Happy birthday, Mooms, even though you're not
Happy
here.
birthday, Moobs!
Lucky boys
Man.
in Japan.
Yeah, I know, right? I'd love to go. We'll just all go to Japan.
Yeah, that'd be fun.
Yeah, I would not mind that. Anyway, today we're going to talk about the newest Unearthed Arcana for 1D&D. That is, what is it, Playtest 8? And it covers Barbarians, it covers Druids, and it covers Monks. And there's new spells as well, which we will cover. I think some specific subclasses introduce some of the new spells too, which is neat.
Okay. I didn't have time to look at those.
I mean, it's like 30 pages of stuff. So I don't blame you. And I felt bad. We didn't do Tome Knowledge last week. It was my fault. And then and then I saw right after that they had the thing that we were asking for was like, hey, D&D, drop this on Monday so we can talk about it like right after it happens. And they did it, and it was my fault that we canceled last time. So I was like, no, this may never happen again. But yeah,
Oh, well, we're here.
I think some interesting changes. I think some changes for the better. I know that you have some thoughts too. So do you just want to go in order? Do you just want to go? It'll be easier just for me to just scroll.
Yeah, we can start in order.
Yeah. So thankfully they have these really nice design notes, so we can kind of see what they've changed between iterations, because so much has changed since the first like playtest material that it's hard for me to keep in my head of like, okay, what's Barbarian do now versus like playtest update number 1 versus number 2. So we'll look at some of these. So there's some changes to Rage, to Brutal Strike, improved Brutal Strike, and Persistent Rage. So this is base Barbarian stuff. So right now, for Rage, it was pointed out that almost every class now has a reason to take a short rest, except Barbarian. So what they've done is that when on a short rest, a Barbarian will regain an expended use of Rage. So now they have a reason to take a short rest as well. Yeah. Which I don't know, I don't remember if Rogue did or not, because they were like the no rest ever for anything. But that's
Rogue doesn't. I don't think really has anything that needs replenished on a short rest.
Yeah, I don't think so. But that's outside of our scope. But yeah, I think that's cool. I think every class should have something for short rest. Honestly, because it's a whole mechanic in the game, and it's weird,
especially if one of the core mechanics of the class involves that like a specific resource. Like, it feels bad if you're tapped out and everybody takes a short rest and you get nothing.
Yeah. And in the chat, I see Zeus saying, in theory, everyone should short rest to recover HP instead of burning spell slots. But I agree that that's a good use of a short rest. But also, then everyone can get HP, and these other can get other stuff too. Mm-hmm. But I like it, honestly. I think it's a good idea to have that. Even though it's just one, you just get one of them back, but still better than nothing.
It's a nice add-on. It doesn't take anything away from the class. It just adds to it, which is nice.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Brutal Strike, which they've replaced Brutal Critical, which Brutal Critical yeah,
wasn't that good.
I don't like it when like a class feature is dependent upon a critical. And
Yeah.
I know there's some feats that do that stuff too. And I know that barbarians can, reckless attack and roll advantage, and theoretically it should give you a higher chance of a critical, but that's theoretically, and we've all seen, or we probably all have rolled advantage and gotten like a 2 and like a 12. Like,
Yeah.
but I
It
think
would be
that
a lot of.
this, yeah, go ahead.
It's just like a lot of. I don't want to say extra work, but it's you could try to build your barb to take more advantage of that, but it's never that. You're never gonna crit that much to make that an effective feature, I don't think.
Unless you're fighting all the time, which
True.
I don't know. That's a whole other like utility versus combat stuff we've talked about too.
We don't have to worry about it anymore.
Yes. So brutal critical. Brutal strike. Sorry, I said the old thing again. I'll read through this. I know you had some thoughts we were kind of talking about before, but now it's saying if you use reckless attack, like we mentioned earlier, which would give you an advantage, but also your opponent has advantage against you as well. You can forego the advantage on the next attack. And it's tied to a strength-based attack as well. So you forego advantage on the next attack roll, you make your turn on a strength-based attack. If the attack hits, the target takes an extra D10 damage of the same type by the weapon or unarmed strike, and you can cause one brutal strike effect of your choice. And the options are forceful blow and hamstring blow, where forceful blow means they're pushed 15 feet straight away from you, and then you can move up to half your speed straight towards them without provoking opportunity attacks.
I mentioned beforehand that this, if it stays as it is, like the barbarian just becomes an even bigger bully. You're
Yes.
smacking a guy, chasing them down, smacking them, chasing them down. Hey, Drago,
Yeah.
Kaya, hi, welcome in.
Yeah. And then the other option is hamstring blow, where the target's speed's reduced by 15 feet until the start of your next turn. So those are the two options. So either you roll and you get the advantage rolls, or you roll 1 d20, get an extra d10 damage and one of these effects.
Yeah. So here's the thing to note, though.
Mm-hmm.
While you're trading in your advantage, this does nothing to change the advantage that enemies have against you when you take a reckless attack.
Right.
So if you call a reckless attack, you lower your chances of hitting essentially by not being able to roll the dice twice,
Mm-hmm.
but your enemies don't get that. They still have advantage on you. So it's one thing to note with this. How do you feel about trading a higher likelihood to hit for potentially an extra d10 a damage and one of these two effects? You think that's like, you think many people would do that?
I think it's situational, and I will say that it is an important note that what Zeus pointed out is reckless attack is when you make your first attack roll, you can decide if you're doing it recklessly, and that affects
Right.
all your attacks until the start of your next turn. So if you're higher level, that's more attacks you can do this stuff with.
True.
And counterpoint, it's also up until your next turn, everyone has advantage to attack you as well. I think it makes it more interesting that instead of the brutal critical thing, it has nothing to do with criticals at all anymore, which I'm totally fine with. Now it's just brutal strike, and it's just, hey, you can either have advantage on this attack, or you can do extra damage and have cool effects. And I know we talked a little bit about, it feels like the rogue cunning strike that they added, but a little bit different. Where rogue, it was like, hey, if you sneak attack, we'll take some of your damage dice away and you can do cool stuff. Now it's like, hey, you can reckless attack, but instead we'll take away your advantage and you can do cool stuff if you hit. Is kind of the difference there. It feels reminiscent to that of like, here's some extra things to do, which I am all for. Like straight up martial classes having more things to do, like more cool stuff to do, other than just I'm going to hit you or I'm going to hit you at a higher rate.
Yeah. Um, the other the other big difference I think between the rogues sort of version and this is mentioned this off camera. The rogue gets that at level 5, and
Yeah.
the barb does not get this till level 9.
Hmm.
So that brings up the question in my mind: is this a strong enough feature to warrant it being at that level? Because that's for most campaigns, that's getting toward the latter part of a campaign, right? If a typical campaign lasts
Hmm.
till 11 or 12 or something, then this is pretty late. So
Yeah.
I don't know if it's strong enough that it needs to sit at level 9. Like I could even see this being bumped up to like level 7 or something, but I'm not sure. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it is. I think that what might push it up a little higher is, aside from getting the cool stuff to do, you also do another D10 of damage. I
Potentially
think
if you hit.
if you hit, yeah, I don't know, because then if you look at what level 7, like what you were saying, they have some other things at level 7. Yeah, I don't know. I kind of feel like they left it at 9 to just replace brutal critical,
Yeah.
and then just didn't shift it around anymore. Um, I don't necessarily think this is gonna be more like like what you were saying in chat. Zeus is like great weapon master plus crit seeking. I don't know necessarily about crit seeking because there are drawbacks to it. It's not a for free like holding your paladin spell slots because you crit. It's something that you could choose to do every single turn. I mean, and there's also utility to it. That's why I like it. There's utility that you can push people back, you can slow them down. So I like it, honestly. More options for marshals to do stuff and have more like some control types of over the battle.
Yeah, I think it just makes another point, makes dual wielding or frenzied barbs terrifying,
Yeah, I love it.
which is, in my opinion, great because,
There
like,
wasn't a whole lot of incentive.
the
Yeah, go ahead.
previous, uh, what was it, which barbarian gets frenzy? Is that,
Well, you had to ask me now that my brain can't remember it.
I can't remember it. Whatever barbarian gets that,
I got you. I'll find it.
until, like, recent playtests where they've made some changes to, yeah, Berserker, thank you.
Berserker.
It wasn't a very good Berserker subclass to my knowledge. Like, not many people typically chose Berserker over some of the other ones
It's because of the exhaustion
because of the
mechanic
exhaustion.
and
Yeah,
how exhaustion in current rule set can easily snowball and basically
yeah.
turn into a death
But
spiral.
they made changes to it that like
They did.
made it better. And I don't dual wielding is like the people play barbs that I've seen. They typically go like big two-handed weapon because you're trying to maximize like the damage dice
Yeah.
on a barb. And so I think anything that makes other like choices viable or more enticing to players like
Hmm.
is only a good thing to me.
Yeah, because a lot of, and I hate to use the phrase, but this is what people understand. The meta for barbs for a while is like you take a great axe because it's 1d12, and if you can proc your critical, then you can only use one weapon dice for an extra roll, and then you're rolling 2d12, as opposed to if you had, like a 2d6 for a great sword, you only get an extra d6. Yeah, yeah. But I like the fact that, okay, a dual wielding barbarian seems really interesting now. Just with that.
Furthermore, we're talking about a martial class too.
Yeah.
I, even with all the unearthed arcana stuff that has come out to this point, like spellcasters are still
Oh yeah.
ahead of potential than
Yeah.
marshals. So I'm not too worried about like how strong this could possibly be because it's on a martial class. So
Mhm.
I don't think it's gonna break anything, and spellcasters are still stronger. So
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. The power curve for marshals is linear, whereas I think for casters it's more like exponential.
yeah.
Not
Oh,
like
that could all
exactly via the math or anything, but it's just kind of how it feels sometimes.
and that could all change if they like make some serious changes to some really strong spells. But
And
so far they haven't.
yeah, and just to remind you of what brutal critical was and what they updated it from, the ninth level, it used to be you can roll one additional weapon damage die when determining the extra damage for a critical hit with a melee attack. That's all it was.
Awful level 9 feature. Like
Yeah,
as that thing was,
which
it could have been like a level 5 feature.
yeah, which is why it was like use a great axe because then you get 1d12 as now an extra d12 anyway. It says you can roll one additional weapon damage die. So anyway, I like it. I like
Yeah.
the new brutal strike. I think it's fun. I think it adds some other interesting things to do other than I roll I hit.
Yeah. I think they can toy around with it some more and maybe potentially shift it up a bit,
Yeah.
but they
I
would have to swap some things around.
I think they're running out of time to toy with stuff because 2024 is not saying that the new books are coming out then, but we're like 4 or 5 weeks away from 2024 and they
Yeah.
got to ship these books. And what I'll say as a dungeon master, all these player handbook playtests are great, but where the fuck's all the DM stuff that we get to look at? That's not going to get any revisions, right?
Exactly.
Anyway, they also added on improved brutal strike, brutal strike, improved brutal strike gives you more options. Level 13, you get staggering blow, where the target has disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes, and it can't make opportunity attacks until the start of your next turn. And sundering blow, your blow leaves an opening in the creature's defense for an ally until the start of your next turn. The next attack roll made by another creature against the target gains a bonus to that roll equal to your rage damage. I like those too. Those are cool.
Uh, when they say bonus to roll, does that mean bonus to hit?
Oh, that's a good point. Yeah, the next attack roll gains a bonus. It's to be hit. So like a
Okay.
bardic inspiration, but it's a barbarian inspiration, a barbaric inspiration. There you go. Yeah, talking is
Uh,
hard for me, Drago. It's always hard for me.
I guess staggering blow could be pretty good if your barb likes to like knock people down.
Well,
Just don't.
staggering a disadvantage on the next saving throw it makes, you could really set up one of your casters to do some big time damage.
True. That's yeah, because it would encompass dex saves, like all of
Any the
that.
next saving throw it makes, so
Yeah,
any.
yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah. And then at 17, they increase the extra damage to 2d10. And you can use two effects instead of one. So that's pretty neat. But level 17 is pretty way up there.
Yeah, that's out of reach for most campaigns.
That's very true. They also changed the level 15 feature of persistent rage. So now it restores all uses of your rage once per long rest and the unconscious condition. Shuts off your rage instead of incapacitated. So they changed
Huh.
some wordage there. So yeah, when you roll initiative, you regain all expended uses of rage, and then it's once per long rest. Um, and then rage lasts for 10 minutes without doing anything to keep it, and it ends early if you have the unconscious condition or don heavy armor, but not incapacitated. So key differences there.
How many? I'm not too familiar with barbs. How many rage do they get typically on a
It
long rest
scales
before that
per
feature?
level.
It scales. Okay,
Starts with 2, goes all the way up to 6 at level 17
that's how much they get back after a long rest, or do they get?
per day.
Okay,
Mhm.
huh?
But yeah, that's the basic changes to Barbarian. I think they're fun. They're interesting. I like the brutal critical. It makes it more interesting. Persistent rage, sure, make some adjustments to that. But they also made some tweaks to the new subclass, the Path of the World Tree Barbarian. um, and some of the TLDR on these, because we got a lot. We've already been live for what 30 minutes already, including the countdown. So
Yeah.
we might have to go. So they have Vitality of the Tree provides 10 hit points to the Barbarian. And if you don't remember what Vitality of the Tree is, you're not alone, because I didn't either. So when you rage, you gain temp HP equal to your Barbarian level. And at the start of each of your turns, you can choose another creature within 10 feet of you to gain temp HP as well. And you like roll d6 is equal to your rage damage bonus and add them all together. So like temp HP, temp HP being doled out. The level 6 feature Branches of the Tree activates at the start of the creature's turn instead of the end. And the range is increased to 30 feet. And the Barbarian can choose to reduce the speed of a teleported creature to 0. So Branches of the Tree was the reaction to summon like spectral branches, and they have to make a saving throw, and you can teleport them away and all that kind of stuff. They also added a design note, and I know it's always been talked about, and we've always ran it this way, and I think most games I've played have run it this way, but it also says that the new handbook will clarify that any creature can voluntarily fail any saving throw if they want to. They just say, I fail, and not have to worry about it. So I think the reason why they put the design note in there is so you could potentially teleport your friends, I guess, by using that Branches of the Tree thing. And that's why it said that they can reduce its speed, but they don't have to. So it gets a little bit of utility for the party. And
Nice.
then
Barbs
yeah,
typically lack utility outside of much of anything.
mm-hmm,
This thing needs broken.
mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of spectral Zeus, you could just say they're real branches that come out of the ground. But I will say it is the World Tree is the whole subclass. But yeah, I get what you're saying. Everything's spectral. It's all D&D.
Magic.
Yeah, magic. Battering Roots, their level 10 feature has increased range only during your turn and only for weapons with specific properties. And now it's getting into like the weapon mastery properties and stuff. So it basically says Tendrils of the World Tree extend from your melee weapons. And if it's a heavier versatile, the range increases by 10 feet of that melee weapon. And you can activate Push or Topple for free with it, which is interesting. So extra like free masteries. So if you're at level 10, pick 2 other masteries because you get this one for free, which is cool. And
Yeah, or
then
you can
yeah,
just change them out, right?
yeah. And then their level 14 is Travel Along the Tree. It allows you to teleport yourself now while your rage is active, and or your allies. So that was you can activate your rage, and as a bonus action, you can teleport up to 60 feet, and you can bring up to 6 willing creatures that are within 10 feet of yourself. And the range increases to 500 feet. Interesting. So that's pretty cool. Like a utility type thing if you're bringing people along with you. That's a once per rage thing if you teleport other creatures other than yourself.
Pretty cool.
Yeah. This sound tremendous. Yes, they are tremendous powers. I get where they're coming from with like just the Path of the World Tree thing here. It's cool. I don't mind it. A lot of cool
Makes for
utility
some,
stuff.
yeah, and some interesting like role play stuff too.
It's basically it's Kratos, right?
Yeah.
Which is fine. Nothing wrong with that. Um, but that's the new Barbarian stuff, and I wanted to kind of hurry along just because we have Druid stuff, and I know a lot of y'all in chat care about Druid as well. And then those subclasses, it's like no one's even played that subclass really unless you've done the playtest. So I don't think that there's really a whole lot of opinion on those inherently of like how it plays. But so for Druid, there's a one sort of design note in the beginning about Druid, and it's about wild shape. And it says, so wild shape now allows the druid to know more beast forms, and it gives temp HP to the druid. In addition, the beast form no longer retains the druid's species traits. I forgot they use species now instead of race. They just couldn't use lineage, could they? But wild shape is different. And then they also added another design note that the player's handbook will include more beast options in the 2014 book. So more beast options. And so I might just read some of the wild shape stuff here because it's enough of it's changed.
Yeah.
So it's still a bonus action for everybody to transform into a beast. It says into a beast form that you've learned for this feature. You stay in that form a number of hours equal to half your druid level or until you use wild shape again. So they have a known forms. You know a number of forms for this feature equal to 2 plus half your druid level rounded up. And what's interesting about this is it just says, hey, look in the player's handbook for beast stats and stuff. And then, of course, there's the typical things of like can't have a fly speed. It has to be a challenge rating of 1/4. But also, it doesn't differentiate between swim speeds anymore. So it looks like you can get swim speeds immediately. But it gives some examples of things you can choose. What's interesting is it says when you finish a long rest, you can replace one of your known forms with another eligible form. So what they're saying is you have to almost prepare your druid forms every day. So you don't have every single option available to you all the time. You can only have a certain number of them to sort of prepare, which I don't mind, to be honest, because it makes you think a little more tactically about what forms do I need to use for this next day, kind of like how you do with spells anyway. But that is a lot of prep though, because druids also prep spells for long rest. But I would say take advice of have like your core things that you know you want to take every day, and then just change things out like a couple if you need to. Is what I would say. But I do like the idea of having to prep beast forms, have a couple on hand, get some flashcards or whatever, and choose ones that you want to swap in and out, and have like a core form or whatever that you always want to keep on hand.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to get some opinions of people that really like playing druids on that. If they
Yeah.
like just focusing on a few rather than having the whole list of options, or if they prefer having everything that's available at that level to them
Yeah.
at any point.
Yeah. Yeah. I like the prep. I like having to think about your choices a little bit as opposed to in the moment of when it's happening in combat. What should I turn into right now?
And it could
Um,
also potentially cut back on the like, I'm gonna transform into this, but I don't know its stats. I gotta look up its stats, you know. Hopefully, like if there's only 2 or 3 or 4 or however many that they pick, they're like, okay, I know I picked the wolf for this day, and like here's the wolf stuff. Probably not, but potentially could speed up the game a bit.
yeah. What's also interesting that they added is what I talked about before is now, like, because the thing was about current wild shape is you get their hit points, and then when their hit points go to 0, then you change back and still have your old hit points, right? They did away
Mhm.
with that, and they found a nice middle ground where when you assume a wild shape form, you gain a number of temporary hit points equal to your druid level. So regardless of what you turn into, you get the same amount of temp HP, which I think goes into what people were doing of like, okay, what's the best, like, quote unquote best beast to turn into for combat? What has the most HP and all that kind of stuff? That does away with that. So I think now people have to think about, okay, well, what are they good at? Like, not how much health they have or how much, all that stuff. Is like, what are they good at? What powers do they have? Those kind of things, which I like. I like that. But that's pretty much it for base druid. Now, a lot of the changes are Circle of the Moon. And there's a couple design notes for Circle of the Moon, which was sort of polarizing last time. Yeah, totally agree. Druid forms can be like, should be more about what can a creature do versus how much HP and AC does it have. So that's an interesting take on that. It makes them more, I don't know, interesting about what forms you want to take for like the next day. If you know you're going to be climbing a whole lot, maybe get something that has, I don't know, I'm just making stuff up. Maybe, you know, figure out a form based on what you know, what you're going to know you're going to do the next day. But anyway, Circle of the Moon. So Circle of the Moon has circle spells now. So it's a new feature. I think that's going to be for all druids. But so they have, oh no, this is actually different. Sorry. So Circle of the Moon has circle spells, which of course will always allow them to have that spell prepared. But circle spells for Circle of the Moon allows them to cast those spells in wild shape form with no restriction, which I think is amazing. They changed combat wild shape to circle forms and they've streamlined it a little bit, so we'll get to that in a second. They have improved circle forms, and then they have lunar form. So we'll jump down to those and talk about them. So Circle of the Moon spells, and then these spells are spells that you can cast while you're wild shaped. Cure Wounds, Moonbeam, and a new spell called Starry Wisp. That's level 3. Level 5, you get Vampiric Touch. Level 7, you get Fount of Moonlight, which is a new spell they added. And then level 9, you get Dawn. So I think they beefed up the number of like Radiant, Moonlight, Sun type spells to give it more for the Circle of the Moon druid. I like the idea of having spells that you can cast in your wild shape, because like that's your whole shtick of being a Circle of the Moon is you're good at wild shapes, right?
Makes sense to me.
And we'll talk about some of these later on, but a little preview. Starry Wisp's a new cantrip. And Fount of Moonlight is a level 4 spell. Just to give you a little bit of a taste for later on. And then we talked about circle forms. And so it of course increases the max challenge rating you can have for your wild shapes. This is what I also like, because they did the temp HP thing, right? So now health doesn't matter for what wild shape you're going to pick. For Circle of the Moon, your AC equals 13 plus your wisdom modifier while you are wild shaped. So it takes the whole AC part out of the equation too, because every form has the same AC and HP. What's also great is that for Circle of the Moon specifically, your temp HP is no longer your druid level. It's your druid level times 3. So you get way more temp HP at Circle of the Moon.
All sounds pretty good to me, but I mean, my knowledge of
Yeah, yeah.
Druid stuff is very limited, so I'm kind of letting you take the wheel on this one.
Yeah, no worries, man. I think that they're finding a good middle ground because the last update they had like was not it. Like the make your own form and like cookie cutter stuff. Like people don't want that. But I think this is the way that they're gonna be able to change it to make it better. So now if your Circle of the Moon, AP or AP, AC and HP are out of the equation, it's all the same. Now it's about what can this creature do, which I like. And the last thing they updated was lunar form. And what lunar form does at level 14, you each of your attacks in wild shape deal an extra 1d10 radiant damage on a hit. And you also have something called shared moonlight. And then whenever you use moonlight step, which was a thing from previously that you could use to transport yourself, like teleport, now you can also teleport a buddy with you if they're within 10 feet of you. And then they can also be teleported within 10 feet of you where you land. So it's a level 14. It's a top level feature for that. So you can just now take a friend with you.
All sounds pretty decent. It'll be interesting to see
Mm-hmm.
how it scores on, you know,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
ratings.
yeah. I like it. I like that Circle of the Moon actually has more moon things about it now, as opposed to you're the wild shape, subclass. Like it still are, but it's also themed a little better, and they made new spells, which are always cool.
Yeah, anything to bolster a subclass's identity and to separate it from the base class or the other subclasses is
Mm-hmm.
nice.
I get what you're saying, Bun. You don't like the dumb thing. You think it's dumb that they're doing moon type stuff. I feel like if they were like if they didn't want anything to do with that, then they should have called it like Circle of the Beast or something like that and moved on. But it's Circle of the Moon and they wanted to stick with that. Hello, catchy cantrips. A fellow cantrip. Indeed. There are handfuls of us.
Okay.
I'm gonna let you take the wheel on Monk because you have a vested interest in this for sure. You can take
Yeah.
the wheel. I've
So
been talking too much.
it's fine. Yeah, I guess we'll move on to Monk now. This is one I know from seeing various videos and like chatter online. Everybody's interested in Monk changes because Monk has notoriously been not so great, and none of the playtests have really made it any better. I think they've stumbled on some pretty decent changes this time around. I think it's sitting in a much better place than it was previously for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we can start with a little bit of kind of disappointing. They did
Mm-hmm.
not change the monk's hit dice.
Mm-hmm.
It's still a D8, which is kind of a bummer since it is like a martial.
Yeah.
So they're kind of softies in terms of hit point or a hit dice, but what are you gonna do? They're still Dex Wisdom combined. Um, so a few. Let me see. Where are the design notes here?
There's a lot, by the way.
Yeah.
There are
So
more design notes than the previous ones we've talked about combined. So
yeah,
buckle
yeah.
up.
So starting at the beginning, one of the updates is to martial arts. Sees return of monk weapons, and the martial arts die applies to both unarmed strikes and monk weapons. Uh, so monks now can use simple weapons and martial weapons that have light property,
Ah, nice.
which I think was the only simple weapons before. I'm pretty sure.
I think so. There might have been some specifics, but and some optional rules, but it feels simplified now.
Yeah.
I'll look it up while you're reading. But I also like that the martial arts die applies to both unarmed and monk weapons. So
Yes.
if you want to be a monk and use like a sickle, like flavored as a comma or whatever, then it's gonna scale with your martial arts die, and you
Mhm.
can still have your cool flavorful weapons.
It just says Zeus, simple weapons, comma, martial weapons that have the light property. So next is bonus unarmed strike is no longer tied to the attack action. It's
Amazing.
huge. That's a big one. Meaning you can use your unarmed strike when like you can use it before your attack, after your attack, it doesn't matter. Uh, which is fantastic because there's some changes to the base class that will benefit from that, but also they added the open hand subclass, which has a bunch of fun new stuff in that. Um, Next up, we have dexterous attacks. Now allows you to use your dex modifier in place of your strength modifier when setting the saving throw DC of grapple and push options of your unarmed strikes.
Interesting.
Big. That's a
Yeah.
huge change for monks because, as you know, monks focus primarily on dex and wisdom. They don't usually do much in strength. So now this allows monks to be pretty much as effective as any other class when it comes to attempting to grapple or push because you can use your highest modifier to do so, which
Mhm.
is very good. It's a very nice change. Unfortunately, the weapon masteries that they had given Monk previously, they cut, so monks do not get any weapon masteries now.
Mhm.
Monk discipline, formerly martial discipline, options have been redesigned to have options that don't require spending discipline points. So, a lot of the complaints previously for monk is like everything a monk does costs its resource, its key points, which is severely limiting in a lot of cases, especially extended fights, so on and so forth. You're constantly trying to stun, flurry of blows. You end up going through them super fast, and a lot of other classes that have a similar sort of resource, it doesn't cost them that resource for everything they do. So this change is very nice and very, very needed. A lot of people have been asking for this. Um, I'm happy with the change personally. Um, Uncanny Metabolism, formerly Heightened Metabolism, moves to level 2 and now regains discipline points when you roll initiative as well as regaining a number of hit points. Good.
Yeah.
Good. Um, Deflect attacks. Okay, so Deflect Missile is changed. It is now called Deflect Attacks.
Which is
Now it also
great.
works against melee attacks, and the damage of the reaction now includes your dex modifier.
Mhm.
So I'll talk a little bit more once I get through these little design notes. Stunning Strike also sees a pretty big change. Your Stunning Strike now deals force damage if the creature succeeds on the saving throw. There's a caveat to that, which I'll
Mhm.
get to, but this sort of addresses the fact that Stunning Strikes, once you get to a certain level, just become not that reliable. So you're spending key points to try and do it over and over again, and it feels bad when it doesn't land. This at least gives you a little consolation. If the creature does succeed, you still do a bit of damage to them, which makes sense because you're hitting them. Next, we have Heightened Discipline has a new feature that increases the effects of Flurry of Blows, Patient Defense, and Step of the Wind. I'll get to that. Self Restoration now allows you to remove some conditions at the end of your turns. Deflect Energy now also works against melee attacks. Superior Defense can now be activated at the start of your turn instead of using an action or bonus action. Perfect Discipline, formerly called Perfect Self. These are all the notes.
Yeah.
Now it gives you expended discipline points if you have 3 or less. Body and Mind is now a level 20 feature, which we'll get to. And it is probably one of the best level 20 features in the game now if it stays the way it is. So, boy, oh boy,
Mhm.
a lot of stuff. I guess let me pick out something here. Let's
Also,
talk.
oh, go ahead. I was gonna say also a change is they also changed it to discipline points. They're no longer key points. They've changed it to
Yeah,
discipline points, which they did away with it previously. Now they're back, but they've just renamed them. So if you hear us say
yeah,
discipline points is what it used to be, but I think that they just didn't want to make it only like key type stuff. You can just kind of flavor it however you want.
yeah. So whenever you hear discipline points, it's used to be what key points are.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so one of the changes, dexterous attacks, which lets you use your dexterity instead of strength on your unarmed strikes. Um, I can see this being extremely useful on monks because now it gives monks with the ability for monks to now use an unarmed strike as a bonus action, like whenever you want.
Whenever, yeah.
This allows you to potentially position an enemy. So you could go to use your bonus action unarmed strike before your attack, um, grapple them, shove them, or whatever. You can
Mm-hmm.
potentially shove them into a player's spell and then go up to hit him.
Shove
You
them
can like,
prone,
yeah, you can knock them down potentially, which gives you advantage on your attack.
sweep the leg, man.
It's 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 adds flavor and it adds much needed utility
Mm-hmm.
to the monk. It should make the monk feel much more like somebody who's precise and accurate with their movements to be able to knock legs out, to put somebody's arm behind their back, which is fantastic.
No, Zeus. I thought it would like strength like to because this is the thing they changed with unarmed strikes now include grapple or shove as part of an unarmed strike,
Yeah.
where if you were the aggressor you had to use athletics, whereas the defender can use athletics or acrobatics. But now they've changed unarmed strike to where it's not a saving throw. It's you hit used to hit their AC. I'm pretty sure, but I think that was in a previous edition. But
Um, so yeah, let's talk about um
I have a thing.
oh sure.
So, and I'm looking at the previous monk. One big change, which is interesting, is on current D&D, your martial arts die was a D4 until level 5, or going up to a D6. Now it starts as a D6, so it
Yes.
scales better as well.
Yes.
They just bump the die up, so now you end up with a D12 at the end instead of a D10.
Yep. So yeah, your unarmed strikes got a little better.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah,
Perfect. Um so I mentioned there were some changes to what was it? Stunning strike. I don't want to go through all of them. I just want to highlight a
mm-hmm.
few ones that I think are going to be big for the way the class plays. And everybody who's played a monk knows like the peaks and valleys of stunning strike. How it feels
Yep.
great when it lands, but feels awful when it doesn't. Um, Big change. So this is one people might not like too much. I think it's fine. You can only do stunning strike once per turn. Now, you cannot keep spending your discipline points to keep attempting stunning strike.
Mm-hmm.
Once per turn, you can do it. Sounds kind of like a step back, but with this, even if the target saves, you're doing what is it? They take force damage equal to something, right? Equal to a roll of your martial arts dice. So they're taking a d6 even if they fail. So you're doing your damage of your attack. And then if you decide to make that attack stunning strike, even if they save, it's not like you just, oh, too bad for you. You can still do a little extra damage on top. So it kind of sweetens it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Now, here's the question. Stunning strike, the stun somebody is extremely strong. Do you think players now almost like sometimes will hope the opponent saves just to dish out a little bit more damage.
I don't think so. It's just almost like a consolation now instead of wasting your discipline points.
So
Because
here's I was
mhm,
going to pair it with this. Sorry, I should have
yeah,
did it faster. The target does not take any extra damage if they fail, which is kind of
right.
strange.
Well, being stunned, I think I would argue is worth more than just doing a little bit of extra damage as a condition.
True. I just think
It's a weird
it's
this or
kind
that type
it's
thing.
kind of a weird interaction where like the person takes the damage because you hit them. The ac- but that extra force it just doesn't come out or it doesn't hurt them, but it stuns them. It's a
Well,
little
now you're
weird.
trying to put logic into D&D powers, and that's a dangerous road to go down.
Yeah, I know, I know. It was just a little funny. It was a little funny thing. Um, trying to think what else do we got here. That's a significant change because
hmm
now there's a limit on
Which
stunning
I
strike.
like because I mean, it even happened in campaign one where it's like 3 times in a row. I'm gonna try a stunning track again. Oh, I didn't make it. I'm gonna try it again. I didn't make it. Like that doesn't feel good for anybody. I don't think.
One of the another kind of big change is the deflect attacks.
hmm
Um, before it used to be deflect missile. This lets you make an attempt to deflect melee attacks as well.
hmm
Um, and this is for any type of melee that does bludgeoning, piercing, or slashing damage.
Love it.
Um, so it doesn't work for magic based damage.
Yet
Um,
until higher
yeah,
levels.
yeah. Um, when you do deflect, the total damage taken from the attack is reduced by 1d10 plus your dexterity modifier plus your monk level. If
hmm
you reduce the damage to 0, you can spend 1 discipline point to redirect some of the attack's force. If you do so, choose a creature within 5 feet of you. If the attack was a melee attack, or 60 feet of yourself. Wait, choose a creature within 5 feet of you. If the attack was a melee attack, or 60 feet of yourself that isn't behind total cover.
So if it's a melee attack, they have to be within 5 feet of you. If it's a range attack, then they have to be
Okay.
within 60 feet of you. That's not behind cover.
Okay. They said it at the end of the sentence.
It's a
That's why.
weird sentence, yeah.
Yeah. That creature must succeed on a dex save or take damage equal to 2 rolls of your martial arts die plus your dex modifier. Damage is the same type dealt by the attack.
So much more flavorful and so cooler than just deflect missiles.
Yeah.
Like this feels like a cool, awesome, like martial artist thing to do. Like every
Yeah.
single turn, every round, and you can use your reaction, just blocking attacks and going wild. I love it.
Yeah, it puts the visual in mind of the guy fighting in a 2-on-1 and he's just deflecting attacks and then one attack he just causes the other guy to hit his friend. It's so cool. So cool.
It's like Neo in the Matrix, man, one handed, just.
Yeah. Um
I wanted to
they
point something else out to you, real
huh?
quick. That was on the Monk's Discipline feature. Where patient defense used to be, you spend a discipline point and you can, um, take the dodge action, right?
Mhm.
So they've changed it where it says patient defense. You can take the disengage action as a bonus action now for free,
Mhm.
and you can spend a discipline point to take both dodge and disengage as a bonus action.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So
and
they
then same thing for Step of the Wind does that too, where you
yes.
can take a dash action as a bonus action, but you can spend discipline point to take both disengage and dash, and your jump distance is doubled.
So they took the problem of monks had to spend their resources to do everything, and
Mm-hmm.
now it's you get these things as bonus actions, you just have them. But if you want to spice them up a bit more, then you can spend your resource to do it, which is
Mm-hmm.
much, much better.
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
Um, what else do we got here?
You talked about stunning strike.
Talked about that.
Um, they have the
Uh,
heightened discipline, which is
yes.
interesting at level 10.
So if you choose at level 10, spend 1 discipline point on Flurry of Blows, you can make it hit up potentially 3 times instead of 2.
Yeah, 3 unarmed strike
Yeah.
for flurry of blows.
Which, bear in mind, that's like, so as a monk, you can use your bonus action, unarmed strike somebody, potentially knock them down, attack with advantage if they're on the ground, then follow up, spend a discipline point at level 10 if you're level 10, and hit them 3 times with unarmed strikes at advantage because they're still on the ground.
Two more times. It
2
counts
more
your
times.
first unarmed.
Oh, does it count the first one?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because you get the first one for free, and then flurry of blows gives you the second one, and then level 10 gives you the
Right,
third
right,
one.
right, right.
Mm-hmm.
You can tell it's been a while since I played Monk.
Hasn't been that long. When did we
I
end
mean, it's
campaign
been
1?
like,
April? I don't know. It is a long time.
it's
But what's cool about that too is like the heightened discipline with flurry of blows, but also it's like it's keeping like it's adding like little spices, little flavors. Because like patient
mhm.
defense, like now you can gain temp HP as well. And like step of the wind, you can like move the creature with you as well too. You can like move someone within 5 feet of you. It's a willing creature, I should say. So you can choose a friend.
Yeah, it's very nice.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Giving Monk more of an identity. Um, should we? I think those were most. We can talk about the level 20, the body and mind.
Mm-hmm.
You have honed your body and mind to new heights. Dexterity and wisdom scores are increased by 4. Your maximum for their scores is now 26. It's similar to the Barb's, I think, capstone, where there's this strength
Yeah.
up to that.
Interesting.
It's pretty much identical, except this is for Dex and wisdom. It's very strong on Barb. It's very strong on this. One
Mm-hmm.
of the better ones in the game. So if you get to level 20,
Yeah.
so
That is a good
uh,
point that you've made in chat, though, Zeus, is now with all this extra bonus action utility type stuff, being a D8 hit die as a monk isn't as detrimental as it used to be because you have much more utility to move around the battlefield now with all the disengages and dodges and all these other things that you can do.
hmm,
That is
yeah.
I think it's a good point. I also wanted to highlight, we talked about it earlier, like the deflect attacks. Level 13, it becomes deflect energy. So you can use your deflect attack feature against any attack that deal any damage type. But it has to be an attack, some kind of attack. So a spell attack will work. You could deflect their firebolt back at them, which would be fun,
Yeah.
or whatever spell, but not
We talk about
fireball. That won't work.
the old, what used to be open palm.
Yeah, go for it.
It's no longer way of the open palm. They've changed it to warrior of the hand.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so a
The
couple of
Hand
the
Clan instead
design,
of the Foot Clan. No.
yeah, Shredder's your master.
It's now Greater, I guess, instead of Shredder. Cheese
Greater.
Grater. I don't know.
Mm. So some of the design notes we have. Um, Open hand technique now has the auto option to prevent creatures from making opportunity attacks and no longer requires a saving throw. Wholeness of body now allows you to regain hit points without expending discipline points.
I like that.
Complete step. Yeah, that's a nice one. Now allows you to take step of the wind option alongside other bonus actions.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty good. And quivering palm sees a change. Now allows you the option to replace one of your attacks with the action to end the vibrations on the creature. To compensate for this increased flexibility, the cost and damage of the feature has been adjusted.
Mm-hmm.
So, what is Addo?
Good
Addo.
question.
It says the target can't make opportunity attacks until the start of its next turn.
And that's what you get for using Flurry of Blows, right? You can choose to do one of these
Yes.
effects now. So it's no
Yes.
save. It's
These
just,
are
yeah.
effects attached to a flurry of blows. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Push is another one. Topple is another one. Wholeness of body, like we mentioned, allows you to get back some hit points. Or without using your discipline points, which is nice. Fleet Step, you easily stride out of harm's way when you take a bonus action other than Step of the Wind. You can also use Step of the Wind as a part of the bonus action.
Nice.
So, you could use it in unarmed strike, I think, right?
I keep looking at Adel because something felt different, and I went to look up the old monk. And I don't remember what the last monk one was, but I'm comparing it to 2014 monk, where it used to be it can't take reactions until the end of your next turn. Now it's they can't take opportunity attacks.
It was nerfed
Which
a little bit.
yeah, which is similar to what they did with oh, what was it? Shocking Grasp, I believe.
Yes.
To I think it was their intent to not cancel every reaction, just opportunity attacks.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because if it stayed as it was, it'd be fairly strong.
Yeah.
Given what this monk can do now.
Yeah.
In Quivering Palm, so Quivering Palm got a nerf
Mm-hmm.
to its damage, I believe. I don't recall exactly. I know it was like 100, wasn't it 100 hit points, like automatic after so many days of being hit. If you hit somebody with Quivering Palm, you chose like when to activate it, and it was like automatic. It was like pretty much a death, like a guaranteed death, or like a lot of damage.
Mm-hmm.
And they've reduced that. It's still a lot of damage, um, but the target gets a con save, and if they fail, they take 10d12 force damage, or
Mm-hmm.
half as much on successful save. And the difference is they're letting you. I think that when you can activate it is
Mm-hmm.
sooner now. You have more control for when it takes effect. So I don't know. I don't. I never used it before. I didn't play open hand.
And also 17th level feature, but
Yeah. I do know that it did get. That's a pretty big difference from between this version and the old version.
mm-hmm.
Um,
What do you think about the changes for monk overall?
um, for me, there's a lot of positives here. I think this particular monk is in a much better spot than pretty much all the previous versions that they had been putting out
Agree.
by
Yeah.
by far. Because they didn't just do like the easy thing and adjust numbers. They did that for some stuff, but they added a lot of stuff that adds even more utility and a lot more flavor, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, even to just the base monk. If you're wondering why there's no other subclasses with this, it's because the other subclasses rated pretty highly, I think, on previous
Yeah.
playtests. So
They also
taking
usually
that into account,
do one at a time and then revisions too for some classes that I've seen, I think.
yeah. But I know for sure people did not like the previous open hand, the
Mm-hmm.
changes that they made, which is why they included it on this one. Um, so taking that into account, with those subclasses being in a relatively good spot, the changes to the base class are excellent, and it's going to push the performance of those subclasses up
Yeah.
even more.
Monk sounds fun as hell. Now, a lot of utility, a lot of like battlefield, like free movement that you can get. I think it's gonna be cool.
Yeah,
I'm excited to see it in action.
I might want to play one again.
Yeah. Let's jump into spells.
Yeah.
There's quite a bit of spells we'll get through, and we'll do some lightning round stuff. We'll give the ones that are new spells some attention, but we can do some quick lightning round type things. So
I haven't seen these, so
yeah, Cure Wounds. Healing has increased to 2d8, and the healing improves by 2d8 at higher levels. So they're pumping up the healing, because, which I don't mind, because currently in D&D it's almost always better to hit something as opposed to heal, unless you're like a cleric, a life cleric, because healing just doesn't keep up. So I think that's cool. Also, healing word is increased to 2d4 and improves by 2d4 at higher levels, which is cool. Mass Cure Wounds is 5d8 instead of 3d8. Mass Healing Word is 2d4 instead of 1d4. And there's some other new spells. And there's a lot of changes too that I'll kind of go over about. So it says Conjure Animals, Conjure Celestial, Conjure Elemental, Conjure Fey, Conjure Minor Elementals, and Conjure Woodland Beings. So all the Conjure spells, it has a note that they're all now completely redesigned to differentiate them from the summoning spells from the Tasha's book, because it makes a note that all the summoning spells from Tasha's are going to be in the new player's handbook. So they're making them totally different, where typically it was the Tasha summon spells were better, so just pick one of them as opposed to the old conjured ones. So there's some cool stuff in there, for sure, which there's a lot of them in there, but I would take the time to go look at them. They basically have specific like powers that these conjures can do, or certain things they can do that differentiate them. So it's pretty interesting. But I want to get into the brand new ones for like some of the like the druid. There's also a new one for bards and clerics as well. So the first one we talked about, I think now, and this is a good question, Zeus, is do you think Cure Wounds is just going to only get used when someone goes down at low levels to avoid overhealing people? 2d8 plus Wiz is more HP on average than most starting characters have at level 1. I think the intent, and I think that it would be more, I don't know, for me as a player, I would feel better about using a Cure Wounds spell in battle foregoing an attack, because it's going to do more. Now they might try and play the edge where they'll wait till they're low and try and heal them, but I think you're going to see less of yo-yoing where they don't heal somebody unless they go down. I hope that's what happens, because that's a change that the game needs. So
make people better combat medics instead of raising the dead.
Yes. Yeah. So Starry Wisp is a new evocation cantrip for Bard and Druid. And if you remember Circle of the Moon, Druids can cast this while they're in their wild shape. It's 60 feet. It's an action. Instantaneous duration. You launch a mote of light at one creature or object within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, they take 1d8 radiant damage. And until the end of your next turn, it emits dim light in a 10-foot radius and can't benefit from the invisible condition. And it scales like cantrips do. Interesting. In wild shape, for a Circle of the Moon, you now have a ranged cantrip at your disposal that you can use. That's interesting. I like that was a cantrip. A nice little niche thing of a little bit of damage, but hey, now they shed light, so you don't have to worry about if they're in darkness or anything and opposing disadvantage, and now they can't be invisible. Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, sounds pretty good.
The level 4 is Bard and Druid, the Fount of Moonlight. Also in action, range itself. 10-minute concentration spell. It says a cool light wreathes your body for the duration, emitting bright light in a 20-foot radius and dim light for an additional 20 feet. Outside of that, until the spell ends, you have resistance to radiant damage, and your melee attacks deal an extra 2d6 radiant damage on a hit. Interesting. In addition, immediately after you take damage from a creature you can see within 60 feet of yourself, you can use your reaction to force the creature to make a con saving throw. On a failed save, the creature has the blinded condition at the end of your next turn. That's pretty rad.
Yeah, it's especially the duration of it, 10 minutes, and if a creature is blinded, they don't it's until the end of your next turn, not
Yes.
their turn or
Yeah.
anything like that. So that's
Yeah. This is a
pretty
level
nice.
4 spell though, so is it level 7 is when you get it, I believe. Don't quote me on that.
Don't
Um
know.
yeah, I like that. I kind of like that spell. Cuz there's some I think that there's definitely some other like old monsters that have something like that where they can reaction like blind people, that kind of stuff. So, I like it. Um
Yeah, I guess you'd have to compare it to other potential like concentration spells at that level to see. I don't know them, but
Yeah, well, on this one though, is that as long as you maintain your concentration, you use your reaction and say, "Okay, none of that," and you just and they make them sell their.
true.
Now they're blind if they fail their save, which is
That is
cool.
true. And you still have your reaction too, right? Or is this the reaction?
It
Oh, sorry,
uses
sorry. You used your reaction.
your
Never mind, never
reaction.
mind.
hmm So interesting is like a maybe they'll think twice trying to hit you to remove your concentration. Uh, it's interesting thought process there. Um,
Yeah.
Another new spell was for Bard and Cleric. Level 7 enchantment is power word Fortify. So it's an action, 60 feet. You speak a word of power that fortifies up to 6 creatures you see within range. Oh shit. The spell bestows 120 temporary hit points, which are divided equally among the spell's recipients. What?
Ooh-wee.
it says it says up to 6 creatures. So what if you just give it to one? That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not the tactically best option, but that's pretty cool.
And so level 7 spell, that's like a level 9 character or a 10 character?
I'm looking it up just to be sure, but it's level 13. Yeah, level
Level
13 is
13,
7th
okay.
level, so pretty high.
So it is okay. It's very good.
I mean, that's super cool because there are a lot of spells that are like, hey, you have this much healing and you distribute it amongst people and that kind of stuff, like like power, like mass cure wounds and mass healing word. This is kind of like a version of that where it's like mass temp HP kind of thing. I don't know. It's kind of cool. A
Mhm.
cool way to like to prepare for like a big battle or for like prepare for something for the day. Like if yeah, and maybe you're tired of your maybe you're tired of your squishy caster and be like, here, take all of these. Squishy casters have some temp HP so you don't die during the combat.
Right.
I don't think
Yeah,
so,
imagine.
Ludi. 1D&D has done a lot of great stuff so far. Like they're tweaking it in real time, so there's still some things they need to work out, but I think for the most part, a lot of the changes are positive from what I've seen now in this state.
Yeah, they've made more positive changes than negative as far as like what surveys, like player results surveys have shown. A lot
Yeah.
of people are happy with where a lot of the classes are at, subclasses. There's still a lot of stuff they have to do, but
Yeah. And I think that keep in mind that there's the state of 1D&D is constantly in flux because it's not released yet. All this is playtest and their goal is for people to take these rules and play sessions with them and give them feedback. So if there's something that you do not like or something that you do like, give them feedback. This is open
yeah.
for a week, by the way. So next Monday it's closed. So if you like something or don't like it, give them feedback because the D&D developers have said that that's where they take their feedback. Not on Twitter, not in the YouTube comments, not in this video. Like they're looking at that. So give them the feedback where they want it.
Yeah. And if you want to know like how they're determining like what they keep, what they don't keep, there's a video of well, I don't remember their names, like the two head guys, and they're explaining like w- their scoring thresholds for
Hmm.
these things on player surveys. So players doing the surveys, giving their opinions, is like that's it. That's
Hmm.
how they're getting their information on what is good and what they might need to change. So
And I don't necessarily blame them for that, to be honest. So,
yeah,
because I mean, I don't know. I
it's
don't
one
blame
thing to
them.
test it internally, but you have to get more feedback than that. You need actual players.
That is an interesting point that you bring up, Zeus, is saying the power word fortify can also make a party resist power word stun or power word kill and some of that other stuff. I wonder, because I know those spells say hit points. I wonder if it would be up to interpretation whether temporary hit points counts. Because if I look at power word kill, if the creature you choose has 100 hit points or fewer, it dies. So I guess so. I would think that temporary hit points are still hit points. Just temporary. So that'd be interesting to see what their ruling on that is, or if the spell wording changes. I don't know if it has or not. I can't remember.
And that actually leads to a good point, and we were just talking about like why player feedback is important because there's even little things that they overlook in the wording of stuff that can
Hmm.
cause weird interactions in gameplay that need to be more specified. You can like point that out, point out
Yeah,
like weird rulings, weird verbiage that
yeah,
you
and
know.
I feel like I don't envy them. I know it's their job and everything, but I don't envy them because whatever goes on that paper, people are gonna wordsmith and like word twist and rule lawyer the shit out of that stuff. So good
Yeah,
luck making that all airtight.
I think
But
that's what they're looking for, though. Like
yeah,
people that can be like, "Hey, the way you worded this means this is possible," and then they can
yeah,
decide whether that's something they want to change or it doesn't matter.
yeah. But I think off the top of my head, it's called power word fortify. So to counteract power word kill or power word pain or stun or whatever, I think it makes sense in my brain. But anyway, that's pretty much all of the changes. They have some of the extra stuff like that's from previous editions to just fill out the rest of the rules and stuff.
Spectral HP.
Yeah, it's also spectral. I want to read one of the new conjure spells just to give everybody a taste of what that is, and then we can call it good. Um, um, I'll read Conjure Fey. So, Conjure Fey, level 6, Conjuration. This is Druid only. Concentration up to 10 minutes. You summon the awesome presence of a medium Fey spirit in an occupied space you can see within range. It lasts for the duration, looks like a Fey creature of your choice. When the spirit appears, you can immediately take one melee spell attack against a creature within 5 feet of the spirit. On a hit, the target takes 3d12 psychic damage plus your spellcasting ability modifier. They must succeed on a wisdom saving throw or have the frightened condition until the start of your next turn. As a bonus action on your later turns, you can teleport the spirit to an unoccupied space you can see within 30 feet of the space it left and repeat the attack against a creature within 5 feet of it. And it'll scale as you cast it at higher levels um, for a 2d12 increase of damage. So different than the other conjure spells, and there's a ton of them that they've updated. So go give those a look. Um, Overall, there wasn't anything that I hated out of this. Really,
No, I think they're on the right track with these.
I think that I think the monk's the big winner out of this one.
Oh, easily.
I think that they fixed their druid mistakes that they tried to do. Barbarian got a nice increase, but monk feels a lot better now.
Seems like they finally got they're finally hearing some of the things that players have been asking for a monk, because some of these changes players have been like, I guess, saying for a long time, like, why does monk have to use all their discipline points for every little thing? And
Mm-hmm.
you know, this this is like a weak feature, like doesn't make that much sense on a monk, you know.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and now you'll actually feel like a super awesome like martial artist who like deflects everything coming at him and flies around the battlefield and all that other cool stuff.
Yeah.
A lot of interesting stuff. But anyway, thanks everybody for watching, hanging out with us, going over some of these changes. I would urge you all to go look them up yourself. The new Unearthed Arcana that they host on, it's on D&D Beyond now. So just look up one D&D UA and you'll find them. You can look through all of them. And um the feedback is open until next Monday. So if you have any praise or gripes on any of this, go fill out the feedback, because if you don't, they're not gonna know, because they're sure as hell not gonna read this chat to look for feedback in for one D&D. So with that being said, thanks for watching, everybody. If you didn't know, we're also on YouTube. If you're not watching there now, go check us out on YouTube. We've got a Patreon, Caches and Cantrips. One thing I'd like you all to do, though, there's some interesting things that I've gotten some nuggets out of in our Discord. It's discord.gg/Caches and Cantrips. There's a channel in there that is called Tome of Knowledge Topics. Give us your topics. What do you want us to talk about? What things do you have questions about? Whether you're new to D&D or you've been playing it for several years, let us know what you want us to talk about, and we've got some good ones from there and looking for some more. So if you have ideas, things you want answered, let us know. But anyway, we'll see you all later. Up next on Wednesday, 7 p.m. Pacific, will be a Bun Bun art stream right here. So come back and come check that out. Have a good night. Bye, everybody.
Bye.